All right, I think we may be live. Let me check my social media stat. All right, if you're tuning in, welcome to episode 35 of Kowalski Analysis. Tonight we're going to be doing something a little different. Tonight I'm going to be all alone on the podcast, and we're going to be doing an episode of Ask Rob. This is actually Ask Rob number 6. I haven't done one of these episodes in almost 2 years. April of 2019 was the last time I did one. And I basically just have people that, send me questions pretty regularly and ask me questions about dating, waiting, sex, becoming the best version of yourself during the wait. And I do my best to answer them, So I think that I'm pretty qualified to do that because, let's see here. I think I might have timed this actually perfect this time, which I don't usually do. But I think I'm qualified to answer these questions because, I've said before, I may have lived at more polar ends of the spectrum when it comes to sex than any human being in history. I honestly believe I might be that guy. I've had a lot of, casual encounters before I met Jesus, and then I had years of abstinence, and then I backslid and made a bunch more mistakes. And then when I rededicated, for the most part, I've been waiting for the last 9 years outside of 2 mistakes. So I can not only give like practical real world advice from living out there and kind of experiencing both sides, but also balance it with what the word of God has to say, because I know the word pretty well. And so I like to talk about it. So before we dive in, I want to just, I'm going to share my screen here quickly. I want to mention my sponsor, Micah Hughes. Micah is a longtime friend of mine and a big supporter of City Fam. And, maybe you're like me and you want to get married one day. I actually want to get married. I want companionship. I want to have sex again. I miss having somebody to come home to. And, for me, a big part of why I haven't felt like it was the right season for me, it was because of my finances. So Micah not only helps people get their finances in order so that they can buy a home, he actually provides something called a lifestyle snapshot. We actually did it the other day, where you put in all of your expenses, all of your income, and then you can kind of see your disposable income and how much you can really save on a weekly or monthly basis so that you can attain the dream of home ownership. Again, if you're wanting to be married, you're going to need to put a roof over that person's head. Especially if you're a man, you're probably going to want to provide for your wife. But Micah can help you with that. He's great. He's a believer, loves the Lord, and is really just will take good care of you. So give him a call if you again want to own a home, buy a home, invest in real estate. Mike is your guy. 443-532-8450, or you can email him at the email address in the show notes. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So if you have any questions while we're doing this, I'm going to try to keep this to about an hour, but I'm going to get through the questions that people have emailed me, but I'd also like to answer other questions. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to try to check them. How's it going, Donna Harriman? Thank you. I see you. Misty, Fabiana in Brazil, Carol Ann Schmidt. How are you? Joe Schumacher. So yeah, let's dive into it. Okay, first question for the night. This was something that was sent to me. It's been a little bit because, again, I haven't done one of these in almost 2 years. But this was a female. She said, "Hi, Rob. I have a question for you. Here in New Zealand, like most of the developed world, women far outnumber men in churches. The statistics sit between a third to half more women than men in all denominations. How is your message not condemning all these women to a single life? I've heard you say that women query you on how they will find someone if they wait because nobody waits, and you reassure they will attract the right kind of guys. But here I'm questioning if that's even statistically possible. Regards, Nicola." Okay, so first off, what I would say to Nicola is, listen, with God, all things are possible. So even though something might not make sense on paper or statistically, doesn't mean that God can't make it come to pass. Even if there are more women than men in churches, it doesn't mean that all those women are committed to waiting. So who's to say that if all these women out there decided to wait, that God wouldn't have a mass revival, send a mass revival, pour out his Holy Spirit on everybody, all the men in that country, and then all those men become Christians? It's possible. I mean, I think about stories like the Egyptian or the Israelites when they were out in the wilderness and they wanted to eat meat. And then he said, by tonight, everybody will have it. And they were like, how in the heck are you going to do that? And then God sent this strong wind that blew all these quail in, and they were literally picking quail up off the ground. And they ate so much meat, it was like stuck in their teeth. And they were like, they were almost sick of it. So like, look, God can do anything, but how many of those women are really committed to waiting? That's the question. Because are there men out there that are committed to waiting, that he could introduce them to, that he could orchestrate a divine appointment or an encounter? Of course he could. Now, and here's the other thing to consider. If all the women in New Zealand, or any country for that matter, all decided that they were going to wait, they weren't going to have sex anymore, all the men in that country, Christian or not, would get married, because men want sex. They would rise, whether they become Christians and get married or not, they would get married. Doesn't matter if they were in the church, they would get married to women, because they would just, at that point, you would force their hand. You would force them to choose someone, the best person for them, and they would marry. The reason that men aren't marrying is because no one's forcing them. It's like, I've said it before, it's like giving out free food stamps or welfare. It's easy. They take it because it's free. It doesn't require them to do any work, but it doesn't force them to self-actualize. That's what withholding the sex would do, because now it forces a man to rise up and become a better version of himself and become stronger and win the affections, go to work or whatever. But even like bums on the, like these guys that don't have anything going on can have women. They can have sex pretty much anytime they want, because of the screwed up culture that we live in. So all you can do is worry about you. You got to worry about yourself, and you can't say, well, it's not even possible because there's not enough guys. You've already lost if that's what you're thinking. God can do it. You can't tell me that if you make that decision, you, Nicola, yourself, make that decision to wait, that God can't orchestrate an encounter with one man for you, or all the rest of them that decide that. Of course he can. And he can convert those men to being Christians if that's what he wanted to do. So I wouldn't weigh it on those kind of scales to say, well, there's not enough men in the country for that even to be possible, because again, with God, all things are possible. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's keep moving. So number 2, do you feel you already know who your wife is? This is actually a multi-part question. I know you're doing the wait. Are you hardly lusting? I'm going to read all these questions and I'll answer them one by one. Are you hardly lusting? Are you looking up and down at women when you go out? Do you hit on women and say, hey, I'm the best guy you can date because I'm willing to wait till marriage? How are you surviving singleness? Do you have a strong urge to be married like I am? How do you survive Instagram, AKA Lustagram? All right. So do you feel you already know who your wife is? I thought I did. God spoke to me 20 years ago, and now I have zero desire to even know that person or really even have any kind of relationship, much less even a friendship with that person. So no, I don't. I think God may have spoke that person to me at a time that I needed to hear that, because it forced me to wait. And then I learned about the need for community while you're waiting. And I learned the practicality of waiting, all these things that I've done. The most beneficial things and the most impactful things that I've accomplished in my life came from God telling me about this one girl, or making me believe that it was her. If I didn't, I might have tried to wait, but I wouldn't have, because I wasn't strong enough to wait. I would have dated out of loneliness, and I would have been having sex pretty quickly. And that's what happens to a lot of believers. I believe that a lot of people have good intentions, but they don't have, the realistic boundaries or the support system, or even the knowledge of why it makes sense to wait. So those are all things that I gained because I believed that it was one person, and she lived 3,000 miles away. So I had no contact with her. So I was forced to just sit there. But no, I don't think I know who it is now. I don't know. I'm as open as I've ever been to dating, which is good. I feel like there's something that's changed in the season that I'm in, and I'm excited to get out there and explore it, because I'm 48 years old, and I'm not getting any younger. And, I would like to get married in the next year or so, but again, God's in control of that. So I'm just praying about it. I'm taking baby steps, but no, I don't feel like I know who it is. Are you hardly lusting? Are you looking up and down at women when you go out? So listen, I struggle with lust as much as anyone, if not more than anyone. You don't go from having sex with hundreds of women to stopping and there not be some consequences, like whether it's just thoughts of the past or fleshly desires that you fed for so long that rear their ugly head sometimes. All I'm saying, so when I'm on here and I'm talking about why waiting works, I'm pointing in the direction and saying, look, this is the way. This is the way that works. And I'm trying as hard as anybody to go in that direction. I haven't been perfect. I messed up a couple of times. I struggle with lust. I've looked at porn. I mean, it's been a roller coaster, but, I try to discipline myself, in other ways, whether it's getting up early. I just completed the Daniel fast with my church. I do that every year. I feel like that's a way to deny my flesh things at once. But this is a battle that everybody has to fight. I believe, and I think that if you've fed yourself those things in the past, it becomes harder. And, I'm fighting here right alongside you. That's even in my email signature. It says in this together, because I'm in this with y'all, we're doing this together. This isn't me trying to tell you I'm stronger than you or I'm better than you. I'm here fighting right alongside you. Number 3, how are you surviving singleness? I'd say it's challenging, it's never been easy. I have a longing for another person. I have for 20 years. But I'm actually thriving through it because I'm trying to be as proactive as possible to realize that this is a very unique opportunity and it's not always going to be like this, that sometime in the future, I'm going to have a wife and things are going to change and I'm not going to be able to work 15 or 16 hours a day anymore. So I'm going to grind as hard as possible and move the needle forward as far as possible and take advantage of this moment. So that's really what I do to survive. I'm very clear on, very vocal about getting clear on your purpose, getting clear on a vision for your life. Because when you get clear on your vision, it gives you something else to look at besides that empty space, So if all you're looking at is the fact that you're single, of course you're going to sit around miserable. I'm trying to focus on the goal, on the promised land. What is it? Because if I focus on the promised land, I'm going to keep walking. And then one day I'm going to get there. And then I believe my queen will show up. And we're going to be living in the promised land together. And I'm going to be like, hell yeah. And I'll be having sex and it'll be awesome. And I'm sure other people will be hating on the relationship, but they're unwilling to do it. They're unwilling to walk through the wilderness themselves. So how I'm surviving it is get very clear on my vision. And then I take action on it daily. So we just did something in City Fam this weekend called Seize the Day. Every year, this is how I start my year. I get very clear about what are the things I want most this year. And then I try to make a plan and work backward on making those things happen. Last year was a great year for me. It was a hard year. 2020 was not easy for me either, but I got a lot done. I launched a podcast and I launched an online course and I wrote another book and, started a challenge for pastors to create personal brand. I'm accomplishing a lot, but that is what I would suggest everyone out there do. And most people don't do it. Most people that are waiting, they sit around on their ass, excuse my language, but they sit around on their ass and they wait for somebody to come along and fix them. And they blame God and they complain and they just get depressed. And, what are you doing? Are you working out hard? Are you, volunteering at your church? Are you taking up a passion project, writing a book? Or, there's a lot of things that you could do. Learn another language. You could do so much right now. You have time. That's the one thing you have is time. Again, the first 6 years that I did this, I didn't work on myself like I do now. I was waiting for God to give me this person that he told me about. I was doing what most people do, sitting around, trying not to sin. That was about it, waiting for this person to come along. So now I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm hoping that I meet the person, of course, soon, but I can't control when that happens, So I'm going to work my ass off until that does. And that's what I suggest for people to do. And I think that's a great time to mention, look, I got some online courses. If y'all want to know what your purpose is, take my online courses. If you're a female, Proverbs 31 Blueprint. There's some women that are watching this right now that could probably drop a comment and tell you their experiences of Proverbs 31 Blueprint. Proverbs31blueprint.com, and you can enroll. It will help you get clear on your purpose and it will set a framework up in your life so that you can actually achieve those things. And if it doesn't work for you, I'll give you all your money back. It's 100% money back guaranteed. If you're a man, go to unleashthebest.com. Pretty much the same exercises. It's just one's for a woman, one's for a man. And those were the best exercises that I went through the last 10 years as I worked with high performance coaches. And it's really what got me to where I'm at right now. Not to say I'm where I want to be exactly, but I'm pretty far along to achieving most of the things that I have visualized in the beginning. I've done a lot of those things. So you can be and do whatever you want, whoever you want to be in life, you can have it. You just have to know what it is, and you got to be willing to work for it. And that's what these courses will help you do. So check it out. Do you have a strong urge to be married like I am? Yes, I want to have sex, and I want companionship. So yes, I do. But I'm also not willing to settle. And that's the balance right there, right? Because that creates the tension. Because I want to have sex, but I'm not going to settle. So I wait and I work and I look at, there's girls that come across my path, and I look and I pray about them, but I don't want to ever be the product of a divorce. And I don't want to look over my shoulder and wonder if I could be happier with somebody else. So I'm going to choose this person very carefully. And I'm going to work as hard as possible, making my vision come to pass till they come along. How do you survive Instagram, AKA Lustagram? So I try to do my best to go on social media and only use it for output. You got to be very careful. Like, social media in general is a time waster. I don't go there to look at I rarely scroll through people's pictures because I'm so tunnel vision on my own purpose and my own vision that I ain't got time to look at other people's life. If this is just a side note that really doesn't have anything to do with this question, but if somebody's criticizing you, 100% of the time they're doing less than you. I don't have time to be critical of anybody. I'm too busy working on my stuff. I don't have time to worry about what you're doing and if you're doing it right or not doing it right. So, get focused on what you're doing. If you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, there's probably because you're not clear on your vision. The word says, without vision, people perish, but there's another version of it that says without vision, people throw off restraint. They cast off restraint. So if you're just kind of like on Instagram for hours a day, I think the average is almost 3 hours that most people are on social media. 2 hours and 57 minutes is the latest number that came out. If you're on social media for 3 hours a day, you're not clear on your vision, because if you were, you would be working toward it more than that. You wouldn't have the 3 hours a day to do that. So I would say, get clear on your vision and stop scrolling. Yes, but yeah, well, let's keep moving. Okay. Oh, and one more thing to mention. It's just something else I actually thought of, but I skipped over this question. It says, do you hit on women and say, hey, I'm the best guy you can date because I'm willing to wait till marriage? So no, I don't say that, but I will say that if you are a Christian man that is waiting to have sex, you have to realize right off the bat, you are unique. You're exotic. You're set apart. Like most Christian men, not most men, but even most Christian men aren't committed to waiting. So the very fact that you're committed to waiting to have sex sets you apart. You need to walk in that. You need to know that there's not many of you. You are a unicorn. I did a video recently and I said, it's the equivalent of being like a 6'3" blonde hair guy in China. Like, you're going to stand out. You're exotic. Women are going to want to know you. They're going to want to take pictures with you. Okay, maybe not that, but the point is you are exotic and you need to walk in that confidence. Confidence is extremely sexy. I see a lot of Christian men and they lack confidence. They like sit around and wallow like nobody wants to date them. And then nobody wants to date them because they act that way. Women don't want a Debbie Downer. Women don't want a negative Nancy. They don't want somebody that thinks low of themselves. So you need to figure that out. If you think low of yourself, you need to figure out how you're going to raise your own value, your own thoughts of yourself. You could listen to positive affirmations, or you could, change the channel. If you start saying something negative about yourself, change the channel. Imagine that everything you thought about yourself or everything you said about yourself was followed with, because that's exactly what I want. That would change the way you thought and the way you spoke about yourself, probably. But you need to walk in that confidence, because women find confidence sexy. Okay. So no, just being a kingdom man and waiting till marriage. Go in the Why Waiting Works community. There's about 2,100 people in there. And I would say that, 8 out of 10 of them, if not 9 out of 10, are women that are wanting to get married, that are waiting to have sex. So if you're like, hi, and you're just not a complete, weirdo, you could probably find one in there. Like it ain't that hard to get married if, you're a kingdom man and you're waiting to have sex, because there's so few of them out there, which is sad for the ladies. And we're trying to change that, but it's true. There's not a lot of men that are committed to this stance. So walk in that. Okay, let's keep rolling. So, all right, I want to pause here for a moment. Actually, I want to talk to you really quickly about my book, Why Waiting Works. It's got over 100 5-star reviews on Amazon, and it's probably the most practical book that's ever been written about waiting to have sex. You can pick up a free copy at whywaitingworks.net. You get over $130 worth of free bonuses like the study guide. You get the videos that go with each week of the study guide. You get my Ask Rob compilation from all 5 of my Ask Robs. You get the audio, not this one yet. And then you get, I think there's something else. Anyway, you get over $130 worth of free bonuses. Whywaitingworks.net. Pick up a free copy. You're just paying for shipping and handling. It's $9.95. And also join the Why Waiting Works community. I just mentioned that on Facebook. Again, 2,100 people in there that are waiting. And some people have, already gotten married and posted their pictures. We had several success stories, but it just helps to have the accountability and the support as you make this journey. It's really hard to do alone. All right. Next question. I've been thinking, what if I become celibate for the rest of my life and not get married? Why would God be destined to put some believers celibate for the rest of their lives? What is his purpose for doing that? So, good question. Now, that's a question I've asked myself, because I'm like, well, what if I never have sex again? Because really, I'm waiting for God to give me this person. Like I could take matters into my own hands. I could go out and date someone and just probably get married and not be sinning on a technicality possibly. But I'm afraid to do that. Like I want to be in the center of God's will. I don't want to leave any blessings on the table. The word's pretty clear about when you're single, you have more time and more of everything to give to God. You're not worried about another human being's happiness. So why would God leave you to be single for your life? Well, because you're going to be more productive and you're going to be more effective for the kingdom. Would you like it necessarily? Probably not. 15 of the last 20 years, I've been single and waiting. They have not been easy. But when I look back at everything that I've done, I'm like, man, I'm grateful that I did it. I don't want to do it again, but I'm grateful that I did it. Now, if I go to the end of my life and God leaves me to be single for the rest of my life, and I just, make this massive impact on the world, then will I have any regret? No, I won't. I won't have any regret. I'd rather it be alongside of somebody at some point, and then we make this massive impact together, but I don't know what his plan is. So I would say, look, some of the greatest people in the Bible were single. Jesus was single. Paul was single. Who else? I'm sure there were lots of others, but those are the 2 that I'm thinking of. And they did some pretty impressive things. I mean, Jesus and Paul wrote, 2/3 of the New Testament. So he says, and Paul says it's better to be single, but he also says, but if you're going to burn it's better to marry than burn with passion. So if you're burning, with lust or with passion, then get married. Now, again, the dynamic is you could just choose somebody and try to make it work. People do that all the time. That's not how I'm built. I need chemistry and romance, and I need to be like really in it, so, and I just haven't found that person yet. But if you're burning, then go get married. But that's why he would leave us single. That's a possible answer right there, is because you're going to be way more effective for the kingdom. Also, what are your thoughts on sex toys for married couples? Excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to check these. Okay. What are your thoughts on sex toys for married couples who use them? Okay. So I'm pretty liberal in this area. I consider myself a fundamentalist for the most part. Like I actually believe if the Bible says it, it's true. I don't try to negotiate it. But I'm pretty liberal if the Bible doesn't say it. I think there's a lot of things that they call disputable matters, like as far as cussing, or, some people will say, oh, you can't eat meat for these times. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? So like, I'm pretty liberal in most areas if the Bible doesn't say it. So I would say that it's really a matter of what's in your heart. So if you're using sex toys and you're going somewhere in your mind where you're thinking about maybe having sex with somebody else, or you're thinking about 2 people or whatever you're getting, like that's where it starts to cross the line. But if it's just enhancing your sex life with your husband or your wife, I personally don't see a problem in it. I would say you don't want to use sex toys by yourself. So let's say I was married and my wife had a dildo and she was using it when I wasn't around. That might be a problem, because I think that the potential becomes you could cross over into maybe thinking about somebody else. Now, if you have extended periods where you're not together, like maybe somebody's overseas and you have this communication with your partner where they're, maybe you're doing phone sex and they're using a toy. I think it's kind of like, I don't think it's a black and white. I think it's kind of a gray area. But, I think back to like, okay, I first started looking at pornography. I was late in my life. I started having sex when I was like 16. It was kind of like almost 17 actually. But when I was in my first relationship with my first girlfriend, we were, dated for 5 years. I started looking at porn when I was, I guess, about 21 or 22. I hadn't looked at porn. I never really had even masturbated before that. I know it sounds crazy. I never really, jerked off before like 22 years old. The only time I had ever ejaculated was when I was having sex or wet dreams. That was it. Never when I was by myself. So, but I started looking at porn when I was like 21 or 22. And for me, the reason is because I wasn't in love with the girl that I was dating. And when I looked at porn, it was like strange. It was like me having sex with someone else. And that was exciting to me. So I think sex toys kind of starts to fall into that category. If you're using them by yourself, like the potential is like, okay, well, who are you thinking about when you're using those things if I'm not around? Now I guess there's a potential that you can be thinking about somebody else too if I am around and we're doing it together. But I think that's when it really crosses over the line into sin. So anyway, hope that answers your question. Let's keep going. I think that's good enough. Okay, so this is one that somebody asked: does waiting work for gay men? And I think that this question could be applied to gay women. So, I think the Bible's clear about homosexuality. I'm not saying condoning homosexuality. I think, again, like I said, the Bible's pretty clear about what it says about that. It also is pretty clear what it says about sexual immorality, people having sex outside of marriage. It says they do not inherit the kingdom. Not my words. That's what the Bible says. So that's between you and God. I'm just a messenger on that. But I will say, as far as waiting, does it work for gay people? Absolutely. So delayed gratification is a universal principle. It works for everything. In my book, I referenced the Marshmallow Test, a real test that people did back in the 70s where they had these little kids in a classroom and they had these little marshmallows and they put them down in front of the kids. And the teacher said, hey, if you don't eat that marshmallow, I'll be back in a few minutes. If you don't eat that marshmallow, when I come back, I'll give you 2. And they left the room. And most of the time, the little kids ate the marshmallows. But some kids didn't eat the marshmallow. They sat there and they waited. And then they got 2. And what they did was these scientists followed those kids around their whole life. And they studied them as they grew up and they got older and they became adults. And all the kids that were able to delay gratification and wait for the 2 marshmallows, they did better in everything in life. They had better educations. They were healthier. They made more money. And so delayed gratification is a universal principle that applies to everything. I love the definition of failure that says it's trading what you want most for what you want right now. So in order to get what you want most, you have to delay gratification, because what you want right now is instant gratification. I used to be the king of that. And it always led to places that I didn't want to be, in relationships with people I didn't want to be, so you have to learn to master it. And it's not something, like these kids had it or they didn't have it. It's a muscle that you can strengthen. I'm a living proof. It can be done. You can delay gratification and you can build that muscle up. But your goal with waiting, whether you're gay or straight, is to say your best yes. Okay. Think about that. Not your first yes, not your third, or maybe your 10th or 20th yes. It's your best yes. When you can say your best yes, then say it. But you won't even know what your best yes is if you're not committed to waiting. You will say yes to that first person or third person or 10th person, because unless you're willing to go all in and say your best yes. And that's what waiting will do for you. And that's what it's done for me. So, and also time gives you perspective. That's the other thing about waiting is when you wait. I mean, think about this. Okay. When you're a little kid, right? You might have ate dog shit, like seriously, when you're little, you don't know better. but when you get old, or you're at least eating like mud pies and things like that, right? Kids will eat all kinds of things. They'll stick all kinds of things in their mouth. I remember I used to take these pennies and I would put them in my mouth and wash them in my spit. I'm like, that's disgusting. I would never do that now. But time gives you perspective. So when you wait and you get to study somebody and learn about that person, then you start seeing things about them that might be red flags, or things that, would just cause you not to even be physically attracted to them, because you start to see the person inside. So I think delayed gratification works regardless if you're gay or straight. Not to say, again, I'm condoning any kind of lifestyle, but I do think it works. All right. That was Becky Gaffney. She's one of our Proverbs 31 blueprint people. All right. Rob Kowalski, I have a question for you. With the dating culture, actually, let's pause there for a moment. Let's look at some of these comments and see if there's anybody in here that have left a question. Fabiana, Vicky, Donna, still in here. Kimberly Walsh, is it an addiction? Not sure what you're asking. Tracy Henry. Hi, Tracy. Tracy's killing it down there in Texas. We are in the process of calling all the ARC churches in Texas to try to get me in to do talks about the truth about sex. So if you're watching anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter, and you want to reach out to me, I would love, I'm going to start lining up a tour as soon as COVID dies down. Truth About Sex tour. I started it last year. And I want to speak at churches and schools about this important topic. And it's going to be kind of a 3-part, weekend where we're going to come in on a Friday. We're going to get all the singles and the youth together. We're going to get to a talk about the truth about sex. We're going to get everybody that wants to be in small groups so they can have the support that they need to go through this process of waiting. And they have a group of people to do life with, to socialize with and serve with. Saturday, we're going to take everybody out. We're going to do something fun. We're going to go to a local bar or do karaoke. We're going to do something fun. And we're going to tell them to invite all their friends that don't go to church, because they're going to have a good time. And then Sunday, we're going to come into church and we're going to do a talk about Go. And we're going to show them the ladder that we just launched at Epic Church. If you didn't see the message from Epic on Sunday, go back and take a look at it. You can go to Epic Church's Facebook fan page and you can watch it. And we're going to show the church how to implement the ladder to reach people in their city. And we're going to create this worldwide movement. We already started it. Now we're just going to pour gasoline all over. That's what we believe God is doing through us. So if you go to a church, you have a faith community, wherever you live, and you want us to come to your town, we are super interested. We've made it very easy for us to come. We're not, basically just asking for a love offering and a place to stay and, food. And we will come to you and we will help you get this thing off the ground in your area, or at least, connect with your church and do a talk. You can reach out to me you can just DM me on this Facebook fan page if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, email me at rob@robbkowalski.com or rob@cityfam.com if that's easier for you to remember. And we would love to come to your town. Okay, so let's keep going. Vicky McKendry said, I agree. A Christian man that is waiting is attractive. 100%. Nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man that's disciplined. Like a lot of people think fuck boys or whatever. No, listen, I used to be one. And it's a whole different ballgame when you're disciplined. Like the caliber of the women that I could date now, or even I would say there's probably some of them that would sleep with me that would never have slept with me before now, because it's highly attractive. Like you're starting to operate into the rhythm of the universe. Like that's the way God wired you to be. So sometimes women will see you and they'll be attracted to you, and they're not even necessarily attracted to you. They're attracted to I would say the Christ, the Jesus in me. I think Jesus was probably the most attractive person to ever walk the earth. Not like physically attractive, I don't even know who's the soccer player. I forget his name. Anyway, David Beckham, but he wasn't the guy I was thinking of. But I think Jesus was the most attractive because of his way and the God in him. When he looked at a woman, he looked at them not as a sex object. And I bet you a lot of women were very attracted to that because they weren't used to a man that didn't want that from them and just saw, into their soul. So when you're not looking at women like sex objects, it is very attractive to women. So I don't know, for what it's worth. All right, let's keep rolling. Would love to see all of you City Fan Baltimore February's Renegade. Yes. If you're in the Baltimore area, we are going bowling. February 6th, I believe it is. Amanda Phillips put the link on Facebook. If you're not in the Baltimore area, find a chapter in your area. If you don't have a chapter in your area and you want to create a movement in your community, contact us right now. We would love to meet you. You can email me at rob@cityfam.com, and we will make sure to get you connected with other like-minded people in your area. We walk the narrow path the best we can, but we also like to have a good time, you know? So anyway, let's keep going. Jocelyn's watching from New York City. All right, cool. I'm going to just hop over to YouTube real quick and just check the comments there. I think we got plenty of time. Okay, good. All right. Hey, Rob, what brought up all the sexual loopholes in the world? Escorts, nudes, the bar, nightclubs. What brought up all the sexual loopholes in the world? I don't understand that question. Can you elaborate on that, Bivera? Okay, Jordan Pryor said, I'm a 30-year-old virgin man. Congratulations, that's impressive. And I'm frustrated with sexual desires. I know praying works, but that doesn't take my heart on away. I feel you on that, bro. Excuse me for being so blunt, but it's frustrating. What could I do? Okay, so there's actually another question here that this is very similar. So I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to read theirs. I'm going to answer both of them at the same time. This person says, how do I get rid of my sexual desire? Okay, so this might be you actually, Jordan, because it sounds very similar. I didn't write the name down, but it says, I find it frustrating when I get a hard on. I wonder if God is torturing me. I'm like, why do you allow me to have a hard penis at no wife at my age? And you're 30 years old. It got to be the same guy. Okay, so here's my question to you, Jordan. Why don't you marry? Because you could, right? I just talked about that. If you're a kingdom man, you're waiting, it would be no problem for you to go out and find a wife tomorrow. I believe you could find one that quickly. There's a reason, though, that you're not marrying, because you're not willing to settle, I'm guessing. Or maybe it's your finances. You know, maybe you're saying, okay, I'm not really ready to get married because of my finances, which isn't necessarily a great answer, because I'm sure there's women that are willing to come marry you and build with you. They're not waiting for you necessarily to provide for them completely. But my question to you is, do those hard-ons motivate you to take action in your own life? Because for me, they do. Like, I'll be honest, I'm 48 years old and I feel like I did when I was in my 20s. I wake up and I'm pretty much, you know, ready to go every morning. And I've had to ignore probably tens of thousands of hard-ons over the last year. Just ignore them, because that's pretty much what you have to do. You have to pretend like, just forget that you have a penis, right? Because you can't touch it. You don't think about it, you know, like, for the most part, you know, like, unless you were going to sin, which I've done also. So, but those hard-ons, that sexual desire motivates me. It motivates me to come in here and work as long as I do, because I'm like, I want to get married and I want to have some finances and I want my ministry or my impact to be at a certain place. And I'm motivated. My desire for sex is motivating me to become the best version of myself. It's motivating me to accomplish all the things I want most. So a lot of people don't like the tension. They can't live in the tension of wanting it. So they just tap out. They're like, they just settle. Like, okay, let me just marry somebody so I can have sex. And I get it. I've been tempted to do that myself, but I'm not really willing to do it. I mean, I've thought about it, but I'm not really willing to do it. Like, I want the icing on the cake, but I need the cake first, you know, and then the icing, and then I'm going to lick the beaters and everything else. But my point is like, you know, you have to use that desire for sex to motivate you to go after everything that you want most. So there's a great, you know, principle that I talk about in my book. I learned it from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, sex transmutation, where you can harness sexual energy. Look it up, Google it when we get off of here. You can harness sexual energy and you can rechannel it and you can do amazing things with it. And I've talked about this several times on podcasts where it's like damming a river. You can dam a river. Imagine there's a river and you dam it, you put a dam up and the water builds up, but eventually it finds an outlet. It has to, sooner or later, it's going to find an outlet, and all that sexual energy is going to go somewhere. So for me, it went into me starting City Fam and writing the books and launching my courses and then, you know, going on tours or whatever it is. You have to figure out what is it for you. Like, so make sure that if you have this sexual energy, don't just shake your fist at God and be like frustrated. Cause I understand it. There are times I don't want to work. I just want to lay there in a ball, you know, and look at porn and, you know, like, just be a ball of sin. or you got to get up and just work your ass off, you know, like, and get to you. And then what's going to happen is you'll look back and be like, whew, I'm so glad I did that. But again, this is the order that's always existed since the beginning of time. Adam and Eve. Let's go back to the beginning. Adam didn't get Eve first. Adam got a job. Okay. So you said, actually, in this message, you said you don't have a job. If I think I remember reading, right? It says, well, anyway, I think I remember reading that you said you didn't have a job. So if that's the case, look, dude, you got to go out and figure that out. You got to figure out what is your purpose, and go use that energy on something besides sitting around thinking about somebody else, you know? So again, Adam and Eve, I forgot where I was going. He got the job to name the animals, right? And then we don't know how long that took. I've heard theologians say he could have been around for 1,000 years before Eve came along, or longer. We don't know. We do know the very first words he said when he saw Eve was finally, ! Finally. So he had longed for someone, but I believe he used that sexual energy to name the animals and fulfill his purpose. There's so many men out there that don't want to wait, or they don't harness that energy to figure out what their purpose is. They get married first before they ever know their purpose, and they don't get the benefit of sex transmutation, because it will tell you, eventually it will tell you and help you figure out what you're here to do. And then once you figure out what you're here to do, you can use all that energy for making it happen, moving the needle forward. And then you bring the woman in. Then you bring the woman into that thing that you've already accomplished. So something I said at a church that I spoke at not long ago was, they said, you know, oftentimes people will ask me, what if there's no payoff? You know, meaning like, what if you waited all this time and you don't meet Mrs. Right? And I always say there already has been a payoff. I've become the best version of myself. Look at all the things that I've accomplished. I look back at my friends that I used to hang out with 10 years ago when I was backslidden. They ain't doing shit. You know, they're all still hanging out in bars, and they might've had some sex, but I'm out here like doing stuff, you know, real things that leave an impact, things that make my mom proud, you know, things that have impacted other people's lives in a positive way. And you can do that too. You just have to realize, hey, this is an incredible opportunity for me. This is a great season that I'm in. Let me do what Rob's saying and figure out what my purpose is. Maybe you need to meet with a life coach. We got some great life coaches in City Fam. You know, we have a coaching call every month for our contributing members, our tribe members. Go to cityfam.com/membership. For as little as $10 a month, you can become a tribe member. Get on our group life coaching calls. Get around some people that are going after their dreams. And what will happen is it's contagious. And then you'll be like, man, maybe I can actually do something like that too. Maybe I could write a book. Maybe I could become a life coach. Maybe I could, whatever it is. If you're hanging around people that ain't doing nothing, you're going to not do anything either, because that's just going to become your standard, you know, like you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So you got to up your friend game. And there's some really incredible people in City Fam. So look, if you guys aren't a member of City Fam yet, go to cityfam.com and join the fam. Scroll all the way to the bottom. There actually may be a pop-up, I'm not sure, but you want to join the fam. You give us your email, and then, you know, you'll get an email, welcome email, and there'll be some other links in there. Connect with us in as many places as possible. So like on Instagram, Facebook, the fan page, and the group page, and also give us your list. You can add your name to the map, and we'll connect you with like-minded people. This is a growing movement. Okay. We want as many people as possible. We want to connect you guys. We don't want you to be lonely. There's no reason you should be lonely when you could be connected with some incredible people doing amazing things. Okay. So go to cityfam.com, get connected, follow us on social media. And again, we'll do our best to connect you with other like-minded people. So let's keep going. All right. I'm going to go back to YouTube real quick. So do you think that artificial insemination is biblical or not? I don't think that's a problem. I don't. Now, here's the thing. If you're a female and you're getting artificially inseminated because you want a baby, I think that there's plenty of evidence that show that fatherless homes, those children have a lot of challenges. You know, I've had most of those challenges: incarcerated, depression, you know, like there's a lot of things that come. You really want a father and a mother in the home. So I don't. Now, if you have a couple and they can't get pregnant and they want to do artificial insemination, I don't think there's any problem with that at all. But, you know, I think a child needs a father and a mother. You know, I'm not saying needs. My mom, I turned out okay. Thank Jesus. But it's not ideal. It was hard for my mom and it was hard for me. Okay. So biblically, men are successfully single. However, should a woman be forever unmarried, a virgin, in terms of the Bible? I don't think so, but I'm Unsure on the biblical source. Men are successfully single. However, should a woman be forever unmarried, a virgin? I don't think it matters, whether it's a man or a woman. Paul wasn't talking to any particular sex when he said it's, better for a person to be single if they can be, but if they're burning with passion, they should be with somebody. So I don't think it matters. But, again, I don't have the gift of singleness. I've been single for 15 of the last 20 years, and it's been challenging. So, if you have a desire for a husband or a wife, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but just don't, personally, I'm not willing to settle. So, okay. And that was Jordan. He said, yes, it's me. I lost my job because I was lied on. Okay, well, go out and get another job, Jordan. Or better yet, figure out your purpose and go out and start a business. You don't have to call somebody a boss, go out and do something for yourself. Okay, what I mean by sexual loopholes in all the outings, like the club and escorts that attract men and women to have sex, drink, that is biblically immoral. What is the history behind this in a nutshell? I mean, look, anytime you remove God from the scene, people are led around by their own appetites. So I ask people, like, why do they have ladies' night in bars? Because ladies drink for free at bars on certain nights. Why do they have that? Because men want to have sex. They don't have men's night. Men never drink for free. So, like, sometimes people will challenge me and I'll say, because men want sex and women want security. And they'll be like, that's not true. And I'm like, it's all around us. You'd have to be an idiot not to see it. It's everywhere, like Ashley Madison or sugardaddy.com. I mean, what is it? It's young girls trading sex for older guys that have security. So it's all around us. Men want sex, women want security. So, again, where did all this come from? It just came from people that are led around by their appetites. All right. So let's get to it. We still have some more questions. All right. We got about 15 minutes. I'm actually enjoying this. This is fun tonight. Yeah. Leave some hearts if you all are loving this. If you want to share it with friends, I would love for you to share it. We're talking about a lot of different things related to our movement, with City Fam. And the more people that hear about this, the better. Everybody go over to the City Fam Facebook group, City Fam Live Facebook group. If you're not already a member, join. And then add 5 people to it. Think about 5 people. This is how, just to give you a quick little background with City Fam. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I didn't have a lot of time because I had started a marketing business. So I wanted to have a social life, but I also wanted to make a difference in people's lives. So what I did was, when I saw someone that was hurting, maybe they'd gone through a breakup, or maybe they were struggling in an addiction, or they were just depressed or whatever, I would invite them to my social event, whatever social event that I had planned, because I wanted to be there for them, but I didn't have time to invest in them one-on-one, So I would invite them because I figured if they met my friends that had their shit together, that they would snap out of it. And a lot of them did, a lot of them became better versions of themselves, or, the best version of themselves. So that's really what City Fam is if you just think about, hey, who do I know that's going through something, like, let me invite them into City Fam, because maybe this will be good for them to have some healthy friendships, and then the weight isn't all on you. Then we can shoulder that burden together, and we can all kind of share it and be there for that person. It's not all falling on you. It's the easiest way to improve your friends' lives. Okay. So this is, let's see. All right. Hey, Rob Kowalski, I have a question for you. With the dating culture moving towards people meeting more online, where friendships aren't necessarily the first thing being formed, unless one or the other are being more intentional on building a friendship first, when do you think would be the best time and the best way for a lady to let an interested fella know she wants to wait until the commitment of marriage to have sex? Okay, so this is a question. Actually, I just made a video about this on YouTube. You can check it out. It's called How to Tell a Man You're Waiting Till Marriage. I used to believe that there was nothing wrong with putting it out early. Like, I mean, before you even go on a first date, you could even put it on your dating profile, I might have even said. Now I've rethought that. I think that the best time to share it is date number 2 or 3 at the latest. The reason being is because you want to give that man a taste of you. You want it, meaning like, not literally. You want to give that man, let him experience you a little bit and see, are you someone worth waiting for? Let them be intrigued by you and be like, wow, this girl is something different than I've seen before. So I think that date number 2 or 3 would be good. I wouldn't do it any later than that. I'll tell you why. If you wait longer than that, there's going to be expectation, number 1. Okay. The expectation is going to build. The average number of dates that people go on before having sex in America right now is 3. So they're going to be expecting some nookie at some point. So you want to tell them no later than date 3. If they're not waiting, they're going to be expecting that. And then the other thing is, I think the risk is that you could potentially fall for this person. So if you're spending more time with this person and they're not waiting, and then next thing you know, you start having strong feelings, you might start entertaining the idea of compromising. So I would tell them after date 1, but no later than date 3. So 2 or 3. And I go back to the fact that, look, men will wait for things that they want. You need to be working on yourself, raising your value as high as possible so that they see that you're someone worth waiting for. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. And if you want more information, go to my channel on YouTube and you can watch that video. So I think it's about 6 or 7 minutes long. All right. So also, if a man isn't trying to wait for a true commitment himself, but is willing to wait based on what the woman is wanting, would you say it's okay to proceed in the getting to know you process, or would you caution the woman against this? I have some thoughts, but I'm really curious what you think. Okay, so I would say it's not ideal. Okay, you are looking for a priest of your home. You want someone to lead you spiritually. You don't want to lead that person. Now you see a lot of women that they go to church and their man doesn't go and they stay home. And like that to me is someone that's settled. Okay. You want somebody that's going after God as hard, if not harder than you, and it's going to lead you. I think that's the biblical model. But I would say that it's okay to proceed. It's just not ideal, but you need to, when you proceed, you need to be very careful with that, because in all likelihood, one person wanting to wait is not going to get you across the finish line. That's a lot of responsibility to put on one person. Because I imagine that, and I've said this before, when I'm dating, there might be times when I get weak that the girl that I'm dating is going to have to be strong for me. And there'll be times when she might be weak and I'll have to be strong for her. If you're the one that's having to be strong all the time, that's tough. Imagine if every time you get together, let me back that up for a second. Again, it's okay to proceed if this person is respecting your boundaries, if they're really respecting your wishes. If they're saying that they respect your wishes, but they're continuously crossing your boundaries or making you feel uncomfortable, trying to stick their hand in your pants every time you're alone together, that's not someone that I would continue with. You got to be willing to walk away from that. I would have very good boundaries. I would not be alone with that person, because it's just going to become too easy. I'd have somebody, an accountability partner that I could be honest with. And yeah, you have to be super careful. Now, it could be somebody that just gets on in line, with you, and they're like, okay, that's awesome, I'm down. And maybe you lead them, to a deeper relationship with the Lord. But you have to be super careful about that. So anyway, that's my answer. Okay. Also, if a man, yeah, got that. I have a question. You know how when a person doesn't want to date for fun or do short-term relationships or a one-time thing because they want something more to blossom into marriage, but they also need to experience love and try to engage in relationships so they can also find their true love. How can you go about it? Okay, that is a lie from the enemy. So you don't need to go out and experience love so that you can spot the right one when you see it. Actually, dating is a relatively new concept. Dating didn't even exist 100 years ago. Courtship was what people did. A man would go to a girl's home and meet with their parents, and it was almost like an interview process. But a guy taking a girl out of her house alone that he wasn't married to, that didn't happen. So dating didn't even exist 100 years ago. And if you look at the divorce statistics now, 50% of people are divorced. The other 50%, a lot of them are unhappy. Half of the people that don't get divorced, that stay married, half of them stop having sex after year 4. It's a mess. So to me, dating is kind of like divorce training. You date somebody and then you break up, and then you date somebody else and you break up. And then that starts to become a pattern. And then you get into a marriage and you just kind of follow that pattern where you date and break up. Your heart can be, this is a thing, and it can be broken and hurt and damaged, and you got to protect that. So I think the best thing to do is date with be very clear about your intentions. Don't date just to date. If you go out with somebody, make sure that you see some long-term potential in that person. You know, don't get your heart involved with people that you wouldn't ever really consider long-term or wouldn't be a good fit for you long-term. So I don't think that is wise. I don't think that dating for experience so that you can find true love is a good strategy. Okay. One last thing I want to tell you about. Oh, well, I don't know if it's the last thing, but this is something else I want to tell you about. Go. Very excited about this new book Nicole Duhan and I are writing. It's going to be a whole method. It's not just a book. It's a whole system for a church to follow. It's a book. It's a small group curriculum. It's a 4-part sermon series that your pastor will actually be able to preach, drop in his personal stories. It's a template that he'll be able to follow. And then it's actually a whole meeting that your church will do every month. And they'll follow this protocol to really put the whole church on mission for going out and reaching people. I'm super excited about it. Epic is the first church running in it. We have the book probably, I don't know, 60% written, maybe more than that. Nicole is doing all the hard stuff. I just did brain dump and she's actually there doing all the editing, but the book will be out probably spring, we're hoping, but pre-sales are available now, thebookgo.com. You can go there and pick up a copy. But even maybe more importantly than that, I want to mention, if you have a faith community that wants to grow, and hopefully they all want to grow, they're not growing overall. We have tons of statistics in the book that talks about where the church is at right now. And it's not a good place. We're not fulfilling the Great Commission right now. We are not doing what Jesus told us to do. We're not going. We're inviting people to come if we're even doing that. And they aren't doing it. They're not responding to our invites. So we need to drastically think about this different. And that's what Go is going to challenge churches to do. So I can't wait to work with churches. I want to teach them the things that I've learned over the last 20 years of trying to reach my friends unsuccessfully a lot of times. And it's going to be awesome. So if you would love to introduce us to your pastor, maybe have us come into wherever you're at, this is something that we're going to be doing. My goal personally is to be traveling 6 months out of the year where I'm just going into churches and I'm speaking and I'm teaching them this system to follow because it's that important. So you can pick up a pre-sale copy. And again, you can DM me or email me, rob@cityfam.com. That's the easiest email to remember. And if you just want more information about us coming to your church, we would love to come in. And again, we made it very easy to do that. So let's go. Let's keep going. Let's go. That's the name of the series, actually, that Epic's preached. Go back and watch the series. It's 3 parts, and he did the latter on the last Sunday. It's awesome. All right. Hello, Rob. First off, thank you for all your work and YouTube videos. It really inspires me in my daily life. I also read your book, Why Waiting Works, and realized that I was not the only one to think like that. And I'm happy to see that people in this world share the same values as me. Here's my story. I'm a Muslim man of 25 years old. I still haven't had a single relationship in my life by choice with a woman of any kind. Here's the problem. I could have had relationships, but decided not to not have one. And now I'm in a phase of life where I'm about to finish my studies and I plan to focus a lot on finding a fine woman so I can share my life with. But I have some non-negotiables criteria. I don't think that I'm picky in regards of choosing a mate, but one of them that is really important to me is sharing my life with someone who waited like me. Now, I don't say that women who had sex before are bad, but I just can't see myself with a woman that another man touched. So my question is, should I give up on this? Or if it is really important to me, and it is more important than you might think, should I stick with those standards? If I meet a lovely woman who has everything but that, should I dismiss her? What if I realize that later she was not who she pretended to be? Okay, so there's 2 parts to that question. So, okay, first off, should you get rid of that? If you want a woman that, you want to marry a woman that waited like you. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that desire at all. You want to marry a virgin because you're a virgin. I think that is fine. I think that that's normal. I wouldn't say that if in your quest to find that woman, that if you meet someone and you fall in love with them, that you dismiss her because she's not a virgin, because you could have made a mistake up until now. You just haven't. And listen, kudos to you. How old did you say you were? I don't know if you said it. 25 years old. Okay. 20. That's quite an accomplishment, but I wouldn't say that you would dismiss her because, look, your head can't tell your heart how to feel. So if you fall in love with a girl that has had sex before, maybe she's had sex with multiple people. If you're in love with her, then that's something that you have to get over. But I do understand that. So I dated a girl, one of the last girls I dated before I rededicated my life. She had slept with a football player, one of the Ravens, right before we started dating. And I found out about it. She lied about it. We weren't together when it happened. She lied about it. And it gnawed at me. It bothered me because I was like, she just really went home with this guy one night. And slept. To me, it was like not just slutty. It was naive. It was naivety. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she was being naive. Like, because, to me, someone that just goes and sleeps with someone famous is like naive. Like, what did you get out of the deal? Like, he's famous. You just got fucked. Excuse my language, but you're not famous because you slept with him. You just slept with a famous person. So to me, it was something that gnawed at me and it bothered me. And I think ultimately it led to us breaking up because I ended up cheating on her. And I'm not saying that's right. I was clearly wrong. Anyway, but it was something that bothered me for several months before I acted out on it and in a drunken state, to be honest. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having that desire, especially because you waited. I've said before, and sometimes I think it sounds a little sexist, but a guy doesn't want a girl that anyone could have had. He doesn't, not a real man, not a strong man. He doesn't want a girl that anyone could have slept with. So there's a reason why, and liberals don't like to look at the real statistics. Like, I'm talking about proof. Women that have slept with more than 10 men have the highest divorce rates. This is not a faith-based study. This is real. You can Google it. So there's something to that. Maybe it's the pattern of the sleeping with them and breaking up, where the oxytocin gets lowered and they don't stick to people. They don't have the intimacy that they should have. Or maybe it's just the fact that, they become less choosy about who they get into relationships with. Or maybe there's something to the fact that guys don't want to, they don't show them as much whatever as they're looking for because they were, giving it out to everybody. I don't know. I'm not saying I have an answer, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I will go back to the fact that, look, if you're in love with somebody and they have a past, let's say before you're Muslim. Okay. For me, if I was to date a girl and before she knew Jesus, she went out and slept around, it might bother me a little bit, but I wouldn't disqualify her. Now, I'm also not a virgin, so I get what you're saying. So I would say it's okay to have a list. It's okay to have that standard, but don't stick to it completely because, again, your head can't tell your heart how to feel. So, if you meet a nice girl and you feel strongly for her and you can get past that and overlook that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. All right, last question, and then we're going to end it. We're starting to run over. Yeah. Okay, this is it. This is the last question. Hi, I'm a new follower. Listen to several podcasts already and think they are raw and great and entertaining. So thank you for creating this. I'm a year divorced and have only been with 2 people, but I recently just slept with my third. It was great and somewhat shameful, yet I want more. It opened another side of me, and I think, dang, I should really be exploring intimacy and sex, especially at my age, 36. I'm in my prime. I just started really enjoying sex, and now I feel like I can't have it. What if I commit to being celibate and then I don't get to have sex and intimacy in my prime? I feel like I gave you way too much details and private info, but there it is. What if I miss getting to have sex in my prime? Exclamation point. What if I just want more experience and to try new things before I get married, since I've been so careful with my life and ended up giving away some of my best years already? Okay. So, I guess the first question I would pose is, did you wait? You've been divorced, you're divorced, you've been with 2 people. Did you sleep with the guy that you married before or after you got married? My guess is most people didn't wait. They slept with the person and they get a soul tie, and then they drifted into a relationship with the wrong person, which is what leads to the divorce. Now, there are people that do wait and still get divorced. It's not a guarantee. That happens. Okay. So I don't know the answer to that, but I would say, look, I can't apologize for what the Bible says. The Bible says that sexually immoral people do not inherit the kingdom of God. Number 1, period. Okay. Does that mean you go to hell? I don't know, but that's what it says. Okay. So you want to go out and experience sex in your prime. Look, I get it. I would tell you, number 1, harness that sexual energy and use it for something that you care deeply about. some passion project, a business, what are you doing for a living? I'd love to know that, because start something that you care about, that maybe you can get out of your job, something that really benefits people in the world. Your passion, your purpose is always going to be about other people. Think about that. A lot of people don't discover their purpose because they think about, what do I want to do? What am I here for? What do I want to, they think about themselves. Think about, where can I add value? Where can I just give value without expecting anything in return? That's what led me to do City Fam, because I was bored and I knew how to promote events. So I just wanted to help other people that were bored, that were, walking this narrow path, getting sober, coming to God, whatever it was. And that led to City Fam. So I would say use that energy to start something that you're passionate about, but also, like I think about, okay, I was on this podcast a while back called We Met at Acme. And, she basically said that cause I posed to her, I said, you're, the man that you meet and you marry, he's not going to be thrilled that you slept with all these people on the way to finding him. What a man wants is especially if he's waiting, because it's going to be hard to attract a man that's waiting if you weren't waiting. Because I'm telling you, as a guy that's waiting, if a girl's out getting it in with other people, I don't want to date you. You haven't been through what I've been through. So we're not going to be able to relate. Not to mention, I know how hard it was, what I've done. And I want somebody that's done something hard like this, because I want someone that waited for me, like I waited for them, that said their best yes to me, not just was like giving it away to everybody, hoping that somebody put a ring on it. Like that to me is needy and it's naive. So like, you're probably not going to attract that kind of guy that's going to, and now he might be a weak man. I often say a weak man it doesn't matter as much to a man that's weaker than you. You might be the dominant personality in that relationship. And he might come along and be like, it doesn't matter, Captain Save-A-Ho, excuse my language, but that's real, right? So he might come along and do that. But a strong man isn't going to want to take care of a girl that was out sleeping with everyone. Now you could lie to him, and you could be like, oh no, I didn't. But then what are you building that relationship on? Because already you're screwing up the foundation. There's no trust in that relationship because you're having to lie. So I don't want to do anything that I have to lie about. Like I'm not going to go into my next relationship lying about anything. I'm going to be very proud of myself for the things that I've done. So I would suggest, if you're not proud of it, and if you can't be honest about it, then you're not proud of it. So I wouldn't do anything that I couldn't be honest with, in addition to the fact that it sounds like you're a believer and you don't want to be playing with that. And, you're going to be removing yourself from God's blessing and setting yourself up for punishment, whatever that looks like. So it ain't worth it. Hopefully that answers. Okay, that's it. Episode 35. Subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already, you can go to kowalskianalysis.com. And you can leave me a 5-star review, write a sentence or two. Let me know what you think. I think you can share it. I don't know how that works. You could probably just copy the URL and just post it on your page. I'd love to get some more listeners just to get this message out. And yeah, that's it. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Let me just make sure there's no comments before I get off. How's it going, Tammy Marie? I'm sending you a t-shirt, by the way. I'm just dragging my feet, procrastinating. I haven't been anywhere with City Fam since the pandemic, but to Skateland, and it's an amazing group. Thanks, Kimberly. You got to come out to the bowling a couple Fridays from now. If you want to be involved in City Fam, like get plugged in. But if you have some time that you want to give, reach out to us, contact@cityfam.com. This is a movement that's growing and we could use all hands on deck. So whatever it is that you're good at, maybe you don't even know what you're good at. Maybe you're just like, hey, I got a couple hours I can give. Reach out, contact@cityfam.com. Let us know. We'll get you connected, and you can be on the ground floor of this amazing movement. So I think that's it. Love you guys. I'll see y'all next week. Hey, if you got anybody I should interview, you got suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Send me an email. If you have connections with any of those people, even better. If it's somebody that that I should talk to, maybe there's somebody that's an expert in their field, maybe they've written a book, or maybe there's some, have done some notable accomplishment or feat. I would love to meet them and at least, take a look at what their platform's about and see if it's someone I would like to talk to. All right. Love you guys. See you.